Hello everyone, in this video we're going to give you a full update on tropical storm, soon to be Hurricane Francine, going to be impacting many people along the Gulf Coast, especially the state of Louisiana, already issuing some mandatory requirements to stay safe from the system. So let's get right into it. So starting out with the satellite imagery. So overall, Francine does actually look pretty good right now. Has her classic shrimp look, and that tells me that this is a strengthening storm. Okay, and will become a hurricane very shortly, possibly by tomorrow morning, as it continues strengthening. Now, it wasn't looking this good earlier today. We have a lot of dry air, and we still have some dry air feeding into the system right into here on the southern side, so that has been hindering it. But it's finally starting to build convection back and fire off some big time hot towers, which will help strengthen the system quicker. As you can see, one really big blob right around the center. Now, we also have some energy up to the north and east. This is also technically associated with Francine, as it brought in earlier storms and conditions over at Louisiana. But our main Francine is right here. Outflow is pretty good over here on Francine, same on the southern areas. Now, the area that is lacking with convection is mainly the northwestern quadrant. But besides that, Francine is strengthening and is on its way to become a major, or no, not major hurricane, just a regular hurricane. But I mean, it could become major, but that's stretching. I think a strong Cat 1 is definitely likely. Now, getting into our kind of environmental conditions, what's driving it right now. It's in very warm temperatures right now, but as it continues heading north and east, it gets into cooler and cooler temperatures, okay? Just by a degree or two, or about in terms of Celsius, but that does affect it. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to start weakening, okay? These temperatures are still plenty warm for strengthening, okay? But right now, in terms of sea surface temperatures, it's in the most favorable environment. Now, pairing it with other conditions, wind shear is actually going to lighten up slightly and then kind of build back in as it takes a landfall. But still, it's still overall favorable environment. Not too much shear, just a very little. However, dry air has been that main problem. That's overall. If you take a look at my other videos, if you see other people, dry air, man. Dry air has been restricting these cyclones from developing and have been a saving grace. But, yeah. That's what's really causing Francine to not strengthen and look sloppy earlier today. And it's still getting in there, but it's starting to get blocked off, and moisture is trying to build back in. So you can tell Francine is fighting against this. Now, taking a look at aircraft reconnaissance data. So this gives us our latest information. So we're gonna have another flight coming in. This flight is about to end. Has recorded a 987 millibar low minimum central pressure, and that tells us that we have a strengthening system. Okay, was at 989, 989, 989, 987, and we see the wind millibars right here. We're starting to see some peaks. Little one right here. It's 60 to 64 knots. 60 knots is around 65 miles per hour. 64 knots is around 70 or 71 miles per hour. So we're starting to get, right now it's a 65 mile per hour storm. So by next update, we might stay 65 or go up to 70 mile per hour tropical storm. And soon, and later this evening, likely a hurricane. Okay, and will be confirmed that as we get more information throughout the rest of the day. Now, key messages, you guys can pause the video and read it yourself. But yeah, you can pause it right now. Alright, so hope you'll pause it right there. Now, going on, we're going to take a look at our main impact areas, okay? Our main landfall areas. We're right now expecting a landfall right around here, okay? Right in between New Iberia and Huma, maybe leaning slightly over towards New Iberia, kind of right in between, okay? That's why we have hurricane warnings right over there, tropical storm warnings outlining it, and these pinks, like these purple magentas, are storm surge warnings. Upwards of 10 feet of storm surge is possible. Rain up to like 6 inches is possible, and very heavy winds of hurricane force are also possible. Flooding, we have flooding as a major threat over here as well. So please be careful if you're in these areas. Outside of that, we also have tropical storm watches still up, and those will need to be redetermined eventually. And we have hurricane local statements, as you can see right over here, extremely over here, hurricane local statements, and outside of that, hazardous weather outlooks if you were to continue on this map. So several issuances. Now, if you have made it to this point in the video, go over to NHC, the National Hurricane Center, NHC.gov. Sorry if this looks very sloppy, but go over here. That's where you can see all the impacts, the rain, the wind, if you want to take a look at that again, and if you want to know more for your area or family around that. So please go to the site. That's where you're going to get your official information. Now, tracks wise, here's our kind of tracks. Right here is where we're expecting a landfall, okay? Kind of right again in between New Iberia and Huma. And then out there, after that, kind of spreads out. But if you're out, I'm going to circle an area. If you're in here, watch out. Okay, if you're in there, watch out. And if I had to make a secondary zone somewhere in there, watch out. And then and then another zone, expect impacts. Okay, but that pink, that's where you're really going to watch out for direct landfall. And then taking a look at other forecasts, so disturbance 1 in the Atlantic, 30%, 48 hours. Less low conducive development, possibly depression sooner or later. Disturbance 2, 40% in the next 40 hours, 80% in the next 7 days. This one we're going to have to watch as it continues heading this way. If we get a high over here, it could trap it and guide it towards land, which would not be good at all. Heck no, we can't have that. However, if the high is way back here or completely displaced here and helps guide it out to sea, that would be a much better solution. So lots to figure out there. And quickly, Eastern Pacific as well. We have a system over here to watch. 30% in the next 40 hours, 60% in the next 7 days. And the Baja is actually in some area, and some islands are in the cone kind of area of development. So if this does become a weak tropical storm or depression, some impacts, not major impacts, but some light possible impacts are definitely possible, including heavy rain, flooding, and winds for the Baja and coastline of Mexico, the western coastline. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. Matter of fact, before I do the outro, we're going to go and do some impacts, because I really should have shown that from the beginning. Sorry about that. But rainfall, here you have it. Peaking 12 to 16 inches at isolated areas. Widespread 8 to 12, 6 to 8, and again, a major swath of 4 to 6 inches, even as Francine makes it well inland into there. Now, flash flooding potential, you have a moderate risk, 40% of excessive rainfall and risk of flash flooding, slight risk outside of that, and then wide marginal risk outside of that. And then lastly, peak surge, also 5 to 10, up to 10 feet for between Rockefeller Wildlife Refuge and Port Furucha, Vermilion Bay. Expect your peak surge. And then actually one more thing, our wind history and wind field. So overall, expect a expansion of winds. So even if you're not in that direct landfall, if you're in this kind of line, expect at least tropical storm force winds, and then hurricane force winds probably somewhere in here, or somewhere kind of probably a little less, somewhere like there. Okay, so there you have it. Okay, there's your forecast. I really hope you enjoyed. Try to keep it power packed with all that information you gotta know. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.